So one of the ways that we grow as humans, as individuals, is when we take new information that kind of challenges our worldview, look at the legitimacy of it, see if it's right, and then change our opinion based on that. That is a powerful tool, and that's what all of us should be doing. But in politics, it's kind of the opposite. If we see a poll we don't agree with, we see some information we don't agree with, we just go ahead and go like this, that doesn't agree with my worldview, so therefore I'm not going to look at it. But it is important to be able to look at new information and change your mind based on the legitimacy of that information. And with that being said, I have to admit that I am wrong. So I am wrong when it comes to the state of Texas and the U.S. Senate seats. Okay, I have been saying for months, there's no way that Ted Cruz is going to lose. The Democrats are not going to win that Senate seat. Colin Allred has no chance whatsoever. I'm wrong. Okay, I'm wrong. So with new polling and new data that has come out and some observations I've done as far as geography, it seems like the Democrats' best path to get to actually winning the Senate will be through Texas. And in this video, we're going to talk about how the Democrats actually can win Texas and what the polls are showing us that maybe might not be noticeable when looking at the crosstabs. But if you look deep into it and kind of think about how voters think, we actually might see why Colin Allred could win this election. So let's go ahead and look at some recent polling that came out. There was a poll that just dropped last night. I saw it this morning. It is from Public Policy Polling. So let's go ahead and throw up that poll. So if you look at the Public Policy Texas poll, you can see it was done on September 25th through 26th with 759 registered voters. So this actually is probably skewed a tiny bit more Republican, with phone and text being the method of contacting voters with a margin of error of 3.5%. In our overall two-way race, we see Ted Cruz up 47 to 46. So one thing I want to say is we're going to be focusing on the U.S. Senate race today. We're not going to be focusing on the presidential race. Let me go ahead and show you those numbers real quick. So if you look at the PPP poll as far as the presidential race, you can see Donald Trump up 51 to 46%, 5% there, and that is within the margin of error. Now, just really quick, for those of you who might be saying, Dave, that's a 5-point gap, but the margin of error is 3.5%. I'm going to go ahead and link an article down below for you talking about the margin of error done by Pew Research. It's really easy to understand, easy to figure out, and that will help you kind of get an idea of how margin of error works. So let's go ahead and look at some of the other polls and some of the other numbers as far as the poll aggregators are concerned, and kind of see where this race is, especially compared to when Ted Cruz ran last time in 2018. All right, so if we look at the last three polls that we have from Texas, we see Emerson College did one that is a 4-point gap, 49 to 45, with a 3.1 margin of error. So that's within the margin of error. The Texas Hispanic Policy Foundation did one that shows a 3-point gap. And again, that's 2.8% margin of error, and that's within the margin of error. And Public Policy Polling, the one that we just talked about, you see a 1-point gap with a 3.5% margin of error. So we can see that all of these polls are like really getting close. Now, if we look at the aggregators, 538 and Real Clear Politics, we can see with 538 that they have Ted Cruz at 47.2% with Colin Allred at 43.8 to 3.4%. So one of the things I just want to mention is it's really weak for an incumbent to be significantly under 50%. And that's where we see Ted Cruz in these polls at 47% in essentially a two-way race. So this actually bodes well for Colin Allred. But if we look at the Real Clear Politics numbers, we can say a little bit more of a gap, a 5% one, 47 to 42% in favor of Ted Cruz. Now, if we compare this to the 2018 Senate race with 538 and Real Clear Politics, this is where we can see some differences. So you can see 538 said that Ted Cruz was going to win 51.7 to 46.8 with a 4.9% margin. You have Real Clear Politics saying 51.3 for Ted Cruz to 43.5 for Beto O'Rourke with a 7.8% gap, which is far off from the actual results. So you have a 50.9% for Ted Cruz and a 48.3% for Beto O'Rourke, with only a 2.6% gap between the candidates. So when people always talk about how Trump underperformed the polls, well, Beto O'Rourke underperformed the polls here. Barack Obama in 2012 underperformed the polls. It's not a pure Trump thing. It is something that happens in different races for different reasons and for different things. So you can't just say because Donald Trump had these two things, two data points, not many data points, two things happen in two elections, can we say it happened in the third? No, we don't have enough data points to even nearly discern whether this is something that would happen normally with Donald Trump or not. We just don't have that data at all. So we see these poll numbers in Texas getting closer in the US Senate race, but the question is, why are they getting closer? And this is where we really have to break apart the presidential race and the US Senate race, because there's a dynamic happening here that many people are not talking about, but could be the reason why we're actually seeing the Senate race become more competitive. So let's go ahead and look at the recent Emerson College poll and break down the party ID people, what they identify as, and how they're going to vote in this election. So let's go ahead and look at those numbers. All right, and just real quick before we continue, I know a lot of people here come to it, watch the video, but are not subscribed. We just hit 10,000 subscribers. We just hit 1 million views. And it's Jimmy Carter's birthday. I mean, what a better day to celebrate. Happy birthday, Jimmy Carter. So please, I know a lot of you who come here are not subscribed. Please subscribe, hit the bell. If you like the material that I provide to you, you'll be updated with it every day that I put out a video. So again, for those who have come to the channel, thank you very much. Be part of it. Looking forward to having you on. So if we look at this Emerson College poll, we see that Democrats are pretty much with the Democratic candidate, obviously 45% to 4% for Kamala Harris. And then when we look at the US Senate race, Colin Allred's a little bit down, 90% to 5%. But if we look at Republicans, we see Ted Cruz essentially down at the same mark as well. So these numbers amongst Democrats and Republicans for their respective candidates or against the opponent are just what we would expect in any poll. Now, the next one is the others number. So if we can see the Donald Trump versus Kamala Harris race, we see Kamala Harris is up with people who identify as independents, minor party voters, and whatnot, 49 to 43. Now, we can see the margin between those two numbers is 4.4%. But if we go over to Colin Allred versus Ted Cruz, we can see Colin Allred is up 52 to 41 with a much, much bigger gap, with 7.9% of the people saying that they're undecided. Now, this brings up a real important fact when we're looking at this US Senate race, which is that gap of undecided, those undecided voters are much larger when it comes to the Senate race than when it comes to the presidential race. And what we're seeing here is not necessarily that people are changing their ideology all of a sudden or their beliefs. All of a sudden, they're more for Allred than they are for Kamala Harris. No, what we're seeing is a bunch of people who said in the poll that they were either for Trump or for Harris. We're starting to see them now drop from that number, making the gap wider. And because the number is shifting for Allred and away from Ted Cruz, that means the people who in the original poll, Trump versus Harris, said that they were going to vote for Trump, a lot more of them are dropping out into this undecided category, making this a lot bigger, which brings up a possible phenomenon that we will see. And that is just people voting at the top of the ticket and then going down ballot, keeping it empty. So you might have a lot of Trump voters who are going to go in, vote for Trump, and not even worry about any of the other races, not worry about the Senate race, any of the congressional races, though it doesn't really matter in Congress. So there is one district in South Texas that could be affected by this. It could impact state house, state Senate races, county commission races, and all this. But this is showing me that people are going to go and vote for Donald Trump, which is the reason why he's leading that poll. And then a certain segment of those people who vote for Trump just going to go ahead and submit their ballot and then walk out the door. So Colin Allred might not win because we're seeing a shift in how people vote as far as ideology and beliefs or something like this. We might see Colin Allred because of the shift of people who decide to vote further down the ballot. We are looking at a possible big down ballot drop-off. Now, if we look at the geography of Texas, we are starting to see the state actually trending quite blue. And we're going to go ahead and look at the recent precinct map of the 2020 election by the New York Times to see where this growth is happening. So as you can see here, we have Texas. Now, obviously the strength for Democrats in Texas. We have El Paso all the way out here in the west. We have the greater Houston area here. We have Austin in and around the city of Austin, San Antonio here, and then the Dallas Metroplex area. And of course, these precincts up and along the border, which are, unfortunately for Democrats, starting to change a little bit more Republican. But what we're going to do is we're going to focus on Dallas in a second here, but let's go ahead and talk about what Democrats need to do to win the state of Texas. So Houston and Harris County needs to stay like this, maybe even trend a little bit more Democratic, and it has to be a place where the turnout is good with Democrats. I mean, that just goes without saying. Austin and San Antonio are pure turnout areas. So Travis County, just turn out as many people as you can to vote. Now, when we look at Bexar County here, we see that it is a little bit closer. And if we zoom in, most of those people are in San Antonio. But then once you start getting outside San Antonio, it becomes more Republican. So it's really the core of San Antonio that you need to turn out. Essentially the same thing with Houston as well, but Sugar Land is starting to get more Democratic as well. But what we're going to do is we're going to look at the change in votes. So I'm going to go into Dallas, Fort Worth right here. So we got Tarrant County, Denton County, and others. Dallas County, of course. And we're going to look at the shifts that are happening from 2016 to 2020 and show you just how Democratic this place is getting. So let's go ahead and zoom in on Plano, Texas, right? So we do have some Democratic areas, 56, 57, 58, and all that. These look really good. Now, once we shift from 2016 to 2020, we see this area becoming extremely blue. So here's the thing. You're seeing that in this precinct right here, and we're in Plano, Texas, you see Hillary Clinton lost at 52 to 42, but you see Joe Biden won at 52 to 46. And we see these all across here. So we go into Denton up here. We also see it. We get into Arlington, Texas, down here, into Irving, Texas. We also, here we go, Irving, Texas as well. We are starting to see these major shifts. Mesquite, there we go. We are seeing these major shifts in places where Republicans do well or had done well in the past. Now, if we click on this, you can see a lot of those places are still red on this map. But if all of a sudden you change to the shifts in the votes, they've gone from being very red to slightly red. And if we look at Plano here, again, let's look at Frisco and north of Plano. We see these marginal Democratic precincts, but now all of a sudden, if we're hitting them, we're talking about this precinct right here where Clinton lost 39 to 55, but where Biden won 53 to 46. These are, if Colin Allred is going to win, these numbers here, these shifts that we're seeing have to remain the shifts that we see. Everything for Colin Allred will be won or lost in the suburbs in and around Dallas and Fort Worth. This is game, set, and match right here. If the Democrats really pound this area, they're going to be really good. Now, the thing is yes, you do have some other places where Republicans do quite well, but here's one of the problems. You might see all of these places where you see 89, 99%, these precincts out here. And the rural counties, especially in the east of Texas, are a lot bigger than you think. But take for example, Smith County here with Tyler, Texas, okay? It's 69 to 30. The more and more you get higher in the percentage, the less likely you're going to be able to make that shift. So you can only go up to 100%, right? You can't go to 101% of the vote. You can only go up to 100. So the closer and closer you get to 100%, the less and less likely your vote is going to move. So that's why it's, like Tarrant County at 49 to 49, got Denton County at 45 to 53, and then Collin County 47 to 51. These have a lot of room for Democrats to move in. And even Dallas County, 65 to 33, a little bit less so. But then when you get into these counties, like where Lufkin, Texas is you got 73 to 26. That number is not going to go up much because you've already almost hit your ceiling. So overall, this looks really good for Democrats. Democrats, if they're able to really build in that Dallas Metroplex area, they actually have a strong, strong chance of winning this election. I didn't think that until I started looking at the numbers, especially the shifts in those neighboring counties around Dallas County, and then looking at the polling now. Now, could this go to the presidential race? Maybe, but the reason why I separated the presidential race from the Senate race was because you saw that down ballot drop off after the presidential race. If this actually happens, if let's say 4-5% of these people who are quote unquote independent voters just decide not to vote in the US Senate race, but they're voting in the presidential race, that can have a big impact and actually lead to Colin Allred being the US Senator from Texas. All right, I wanted to go ahead and mention that to you, talk about this what's going on in Texas. I'm kind of surprised that we are seeing all these changes in Texas, especially when you look up north and you're seeing it looking more doom and gloom in Pennsylvania. That's another story for another time. Thank you all very much for joining me. Make sure to subscribe, like the video, comment down below, and have a wonderful day wherever it is you are. Bye-bye.